devil may cry.
After coming of age, Vergil sets off to establish himself in the world. Although he doesn't have a place to call home, Vergil manages to keep himself afloat as he wanders from one location to the next, marketing himself to those who desperately seek help with forces they do not comprehend. But for Vergil, these demons are mere child's play. His physical prowess offers a stoic reassurance for those who hire him, while his equally adept mind for business fetches Vergil a comfortable profit. However, this line of work was sparse in more areas than others. Thus, Vergil would eventually travel back to Redgrave City, an expansive city with citizens from all walks of life, but also a dangerous and seedy underbelly, one with a demand for exterminating these paranormal creatures. How fitting that Vergil's most prosperous business location is the same place where this journey of his started. Vergil's reputation for being an effective demon hunter was impressive, but he was far from becoming a household name. Nonetheless, this didn't stop Vergil's achievements from reaching the ears of Morrison, a man whose network of information runs deep within the city, and is eager to take his chance at becoming business partners with the promising upstart. Without hesitation, Vergil rejects Morrison's offer. He has spent the first couple of months of his operation as a solo act, and he intends to keep it that way. But it was foolish to underestimate Morrison's ambition and knack for navigating his way through the city's dangerous underground market. Morrison ultimately gained Vergil's respect by not only finding him a client that paid in advance, but also a free center of operation through his many connections. By doing so, he proved his resourcefulness and gave Vergil an option too good to pass up. Thus, Vergil's first ever partnership was forged. Between Vergil's efficient hunting and Morrison's limitless connections, the two create a handsome profit and gather an impressive list of clientele in little time. Within the weeks that followed, the shop was cleaned and well furnished, walls painted in beige and creamy hues that are offset by the dark furniture. Towards the front of the door, you'll find black couches that circle a rustic walnut coffee table, a comfortable display to welcome his clients. Further into the studio is a sizable wooden office desk, with stationery supplies and several notebooks neatly resting on the left side of the surface. On the right side sits a vintage Victorian telephone and a framed picture of Eva. To the right of this desk is a staircase that leads to a smaller second level, a personal corridor. There's a bed next to a wardrobe that seamlessly blends together with the full bookshelf next to it. Directly across from the bookshelf is a comfortable chair, accompanied by a small circular table, perfect for holding a small candle lamp and Vergil's current book of interest. Vergil had everything he needed for his demon hunting business. All that was missing was a name for the new shop, something that proved difficult for him to decide on. Meanwhile, another more insidious relationship is brewing. Dante, seeking a lifestyle that can take advantage of his inherited strength, becomes a roaming mercenary who goes wherever the work takes him. Dante takes on any target to keep himself afloat, but he also seeks a thrilling challenge, something that human targets rarely provide. Nonetheless, a paycheck is a paycheck, and he always makes sure to flex his strength regardless of the target. Dante's natural talent for fighting and inhuman strength makes him a desirable ally in the pocket of those who can afford him. But his callous nature and impatience for authority makes working with him nearly impossible without some sort of unintended casualty. Not to mention, his lack of ambition for his work makes getting in contact with him equally as frustrating as working with him. Regardless, Dante's unique talents have impressed enough people to establish him as a powerful mercenary in the seedy underground of Redgrave City. Although conflicts involving demons are a regular occurrence for the twin sons of Sparta, they seem to be drawn to Dante more. As such, Dante's life is more frequently interrupted with random assaults by these beings, assaults that only serve to keep Dante's skills sharp and reaffirm his values. At a glance, a son of Sparta that fights with reckless abandon doesn't seem like the optimal partner for Arkham, a cunning and intellectual scholar. But this feature is exactly what makes Dante a better fit for his plans. Dante's strength, lack of care for others' well-being, and thrill for fighting would make him the perfect person to open the gates of Temenegru. All he needs is a little motivation. Upon their first meeting, Dante assumes Arkham is another shady client that wants someone taken out, but he's taken by surprise at the mention of Sparta. His family is something that Dante has spent little time reflecting on, but also something that he has kept to himself. So hearing Sparta's name uttered by this strange man definitely surprised him. However, Dante has little interest in what he sees as another simple demon hunt that he won't even get paid for. As Dante begins to walk away, Arkham mentions the tragedy that befell his family. Dante stops walking. Arkham mentions how terrifying of a sight it must have been, the onslaught of demons that befell their home. Dante interrupts him with a warning, without turning around to face him. Ignoring the warning, Arkham mentions his mother. Feigning sympathy, he asks whether the demons got to her, or if she perished in the inferno. Dante turns around and quickly walks towards Arkham, while giving him a final warning. Now in his face, Arkham remarks how vulnerable and helpless he must have felt during it all. Dante grabs the man's throat, and, with ease, lifts him into the air. Despite also possessing the durability of a demon, the intensity of Dante's grip took Arkham by surprise. Recognizing the direness of his situation, he desperately tries to utter words that could quell what he awakened. Dante's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he was minutes away from crushing Arkham's trachea, until he heard one word: freedom. Arkham promises Dante freedom. The grip on his throat is lessened, but he remains held up. Without hesitation, Arkham speaks to Dante's desire for freedom, promising him a way to take control of his life and let the world know that he is not a pawn to be used in someone else's story. The only way for him to be free is to cut down the source, to cut down the Prince of Darkness that defined his life ever since that fateful day. Mundus. By taking the power of Sparta that has been locked away in the demon world, he will make it his own and exert his will. He won't simply be thought of as the son of Sparta anymore. Arkham's words reach down into a desire that Dante didn't fully understand he had until he heard it. After all, his father's power is his by birthright, and even if he isn't interested in actually ruling over demons, the chance to take down the one who used his family for revenge and condemned him to a life of fighting was too enticing to pass up. Undoing the barrier between the two worlds would unleash havoc on humanity, but Dante already cares little for what he considers to be his weaker side. They'll simply have to either survive or die, exactly as he did. There's just one thing that has been bugging Dante. What's in it for Arkham? Arkham says that he is simply a scholar who reveres demonkind and wishes to see them prosper again. Dante remains unsure of whether to believe those words, but still agrees to form a mutually beneficial partnership with Arkham. From my understanding, Temenegru was revived by a ritual that required 7 gatekeepers, who represent the 7 deadly sins, to be defeated and given back their names. Sparta was the one who confiscated their names to seal the tower, and now a son of Sparta is needed to return them. This was the plot of the Devil May Cry 3 manga that, unfortunately, remains unfinished. However, I believe we'll keep this as an explanation for how Dante and Arkham resurrect Temenegru, which is great because Dante not having Yamato is already a headache enough for rewriting this whole story. This will also be how Vergil eventually reunites with Dante and is made aware of their plan. Vergil is filled with complex emotions at the sight of his brother. He's overjoyed to see a brother who he once thought was dead, but is distraught by his talk about releasing demons into the human world. Dante shares Vergil's mixed feelings about this reunion. He's known about his brother being alive since Vergil started making a name for himself in Redgrave, but also refrained from seeking his brother, because he knew what would happen if he ever saw him. As Vergil stands before him, the memory of his burning family home rushes back to him, the moment when he stood in front of the Inferno, bloodied and scarred, with the sound of his mother shouting for Vergil's name echoing through the fire. And not his own. Dante attempts to push the memory away and offers Vergil one chance to join him. Out of respect for his brother, and the slight possibility of reforming the only connection he has any interest in. However, what Vergil sees is his little brother making a drastic mistake. Thus, his instinct as the eldest sibling kicks in, and he rejects Dante's offer. Before Vergil could lecture his brother any further, Dante, with rebellion drawn, cuts him off, and tells him he needs the amulet. Vergil would seek to end this madness before it gets any worse, going in with all of his might, but Dante straight up overpowers him. This is a fierce fight, but his natural talent for fighting and years of dealing with the demons that are drawn to him makes Dante too overwhelming of an opponent for Vergil. Dante takes the amulet and leaves his brother, exhausted and wounded. After suffering this defeat, Vergil makes an active effort to learn about Temenegru. He asks Morrison to use his resources to try to track Dante and learn any information about this tower, while Vergil does his own occult research. Arkham's cunning mind makes sure that he and Dante are just out of reach of Vergil and Morrison as they continue their work. A year passes, and eventually the tower is resurrected. But Vergil needs no invitation from Arkham to come and save his little brother. Most of the differences in the storytelling of the events of Devil May Cry 3 will come from the character interactions. The main events will roughly remain the same. Vergil will still fight the same bosses Dante did. Dante and Vergil will have their rematch at the top of the tower. Lady and Arkham have the same dynamic. Arkham will ascend but get defeated by the twin sons of Sparta, and the twins will have their final battle. One of the more interesting things to explore during these events is Vergil's relationship with Lady. We've established that Vergil works alone, but it's for protective reasons. Keeping this in mind, Vergil would have almost like an instinct to make sure Lady survives this tower. He would definitely try to fight against that instinct because of Lady's abrasive attitude towards him, but slowly something about her becomes more and more familiar to him, the more he interacts with her. The two first meet when Vergil catches her out of the air. He tries to talk down to her for even being within the tower, but he's interrupted by a bullet to the forehead.
Let me go!
Let you go? That would be rather foolish, wouldn't it? The same as a human wandering through a tower full of demons by herself. Are you mad? I catch you from falling out of the air, and you shoot me? Very well. Do as you please.
So he's a demon too.
Vergil and Lady will continue making their way through the tower separately. Although her presence in the tower concerns Vergil, his attention is primarily set on finding his brother, securing the stolen amulet, and taking his brother away from this mess. Meanwhile, Dante mainly just wants to see his plan through to the end. He's also still the reckless thrill-seeker he usually is, therefore he'd be motivated to deal with Vergil a second time after being aware of his presence. Arkham cannot let them kill each other just yet, but at the same time, he can't stop Dante from doing what he wants. If his plan is going to succeed, he's going to need to approach this very carefully. Eventually, the brothers make their way to the top of the tower. Well, brother, I must say, this isn't like you at all. Ornate statues surrounding us, pouring rain, a rooftop illuminated by a full moon. A little too theatrical for your taste, wouldn't you say? Isn't this the type of shit you'd find in those books of yours? Figured I'd try to match your style for once, at least for our reunion. And is that what you call this madness? A heartwarming family reunion? Come on, don't be that way, Vergil. It's been a whole year since we last met. How about a kiss from your little brother? Or better yet, how about a kiss from this? This rematch is much more intense than the last one. Vergil has spent the last year improving his skills when he wasn't searching for his brother. However, Dante still holds the advantage of already being awakened to his Devil Trigger, a form that Vergil didn't know even existed until now. The sight of his brother taking the appearance of a demon disturbs him to his core. He now sees just how far Dante has fallen to the influence of these demons, and is even more determined to rescue his little brother. However, Vergil could not match the intense power boost, and falls once more. But not all hope is lost, because Vergil now has awakened to his own devil trigger. Why do you need that power? The power of someone who wasn't even there when we needed him. Well, big bro, you just answered your own question. After exchanging more blows, Dante knocks the Yamato out of Vergil's hand and impales Vergil through the abdomen. Rebellion sinks into Vergil's body all the way through, reaching the hilt of the blade. Power is freedom. Without it, you're just another helpless piece in someone else's story. Mundus taught us that a long time ago. It's about time one of us paid it back. Dante yanks Rebellion out of Vergil's body and lets him fall on his back as his blood splatters across the floor. Assured of his victory, Dante turns away from him and walks towards the Yamato. As he does so, Vergil slowly stands again. His body emanates a faint red electrical aura as he staggers towards his brother's back. Something has been awakened within Vergil, and he can feel it trying to claw its way to the surface. However, this sensation is interrupted by the Yamato being thrust into the same wound Rebellion left. For a moment, there's silence from the two, until Vergil grabs the blade, and the same red aura from before begins to swell and fully envelop his body. The aura detaches itself from Vergil's slumped over torso and takes the shape of a demonic entity, similar to Dante's own devil trigger form. The entity lets out an intense roar that forces Dante to stumble backwards. What follows is a flurry of attacks that Dante barely manages to block, until the entity unleashes a punishing draw attack with its own blade. Dante is sent flying across the field. Arkham arrives and tries to stop Dante from fighting any further, claiming that he's already won, but the thrill seeker desires more. Vergil has always been the only one who can entertain Dante, who can make him overjoyed through combat. He shouts at Arkham to stay out of his way and rushes Vergil. The red demonic entity intercepts Dante, and the two are locked in a test of strength. However, Vergil pulls the Yamato out of his body, and the demon vanishes. The blurred image of his brother before him slowly fades to black as the exhaustion catches up with him. Vergil falls to the ground unconscious. Dante, still experiencing the rush of adrenaline, is left disappointed and conflicted. Despite the intensity of the event, during the fight, he was reminded of the thrills he shared with Vergil as a kid, and for a moment, there's doubt about what to do next. Arkham takes this moment to highlight Dante's hunger for battle, essentially ruining any opportunity for self-reflection and instead subtly telling Dante how he's supposed to feel. He tells him that it is normal for a demon to desire a thrilling challenge, and suggests that they leave Vergil unconscious, in the hopes that he can give Dante a better fight later. What ultimately matters is that they still have what they need to finish their plan. Dante agrees, but something about this seems off to him. Nonetheless, the two leave. Vergil loses to Dante a second time, similar to the canon, but he has now awakened to his own devil trigger. Before you say it, yes, Vergil essentially has a JoJo stand, but I wanted to give a unique explanation for the doppelganger we see him use in Devil May Cry 5. The influence of both the Yamato and the Rebellion created this unique devil trigger form that can also detach itself from him on command. I promise this will become relevant again, eventually. We've talked a bit about Vergil and Lady's budding relationship. Now let's talk about Arkham and Dante. From what we've seen in the canon, Arkham indulges in his occult knowledge. We see him give many lectures to Vergil about the Demon Tower, so much so that Vergil even interrupts him, straight up telling him he doesn't care. In this new reality, Arkham would often do the same with Dante, but Dante also has little to no interest in the actual history. He would make it even more obvious than Vergil, having significantly less patience. Dante would prefer for Arkham to just get to the point about the next objective. In this reality, Dante only cares about the strength Arkham promised would achieve true freedom. We could probably have some humorous moments where Arkham is genuinely nerding out over demons, but he's cut off by Dante's disinterest. However, Dante does eventually become curious about Arkham's objective. Arkham would frequently mention Sparta's role in shaping the world to what it is now, something that I would say Dante has no interest in. Remember, the only thing Dante thanks his father for is his demonic powers. Everything else he doesn't care about. If anything, his father's legacy has condemned him to be a constant target, so Arkham's consistent mentioning of Sparta would eventually get on his nerves. But, more importantly, would also make him question Arkham's intentions. Although Dante isn't giving much mind to the history lessons, he is making note of Arkham's intense fixation on the power of demons, especially the power of Sparta. This seems more than simple admiration to him, and Dante's mercenary work has definitely made him able to quickly recognize a person's desire for power. He would definitely confront Arkham about it, and ask him what his real intentions are. Not immediately, however. Although he recognizes that Arkham may have an ulterior motive, he also envisions the power that can be gained from going along with Arkham's little ploys. And Dante, being fueled by the unmatched recklessness of a late adolescent boy, who happens to actually be as invincible as adolescents his age tend to feel, believes he can simply outmaneuver Arkham if he needs to. What would eventually trigger the confrontation is Arkham suggesting they leave Vergil alive. It's a tactic that simply doesn't make sense to him. Nonetheless, he keeps his suspicions to himself, and instead tells him that Arkham has to want something more to go through all this trouble. Arkham, wanting to keep Dante's cooperation, would then reveal his desire to become a demon himself, as well as the ritual that he did on his wife to do so. Although the transformation was incomplete, he did gain some sort of power from it, and he believes that by helping Dante, he would also be able to find a way to complete his own research. This, of course, is only partially true. Dante is, for the first time in a while, taken aback by Arkham. He doesn't say anything, but Arkham could sense the disapproval. Dante explains that something about willingly sacrificing a family member doesn't sit right with him. However, Arkham responds with Dante's very own philosophy in life. After all, Arkham is in pursuit of something, and anyone that dies on his path simply proved themselves to not be strong enough to live in this world. He's pursuing the life that he wants. Initially, Dante argues against the idea of being similar to Arkham. Someone as weak as him daring to compare himself to Dante is insulting, but Arkham's logic is in line with Dante's philosophy. In Dante's view of the world, Arkham is someone who deserves to live. The logic is sound, but it still disturbs Dante to his core. The point of the relationship between these two characters is for them to push each other deeper into their toxic beliefs. Seeing such power and talent wasted on a callous and unmotivated youth will make Arkham even more envious of Dante, pushing him further into the rabbit hole of doing whatever it takes to see his plans through. Arkham's character and motivation was pretty much set in stone based on the canon, but Dante is still a somewhat impressionable late adolescent. Arkham's character is really where Dante's philosophy is put into question. Dante has little care for the well-being of others, but it's not like he's willingly done harm to someone that loved him. Dante has always been a reactionary person. He does what he wants, but it's always been in response to the world around him. Arkham's story, however, seemed so predatory. While Dante is physically stronger, Arkham has become far more menacing to him, and he has trouble shaking the feeling of being similar to that. However, Arkham encourages him to continue embracing his beliefs. It is those beliefs that connect him to his power. Arkham turns this brief moment of doubt into a learning opportunity to make Dante more aligned with his vision. Thus, they end up forming a toxic student-teacher relationship, with Arkham using his acquired knowledge on demons to make Dante become more and more comfortable with his demonic heritage. Although Dante at first expressed disinterest in Arkham's history lessons, the more he traverses the Demon Tower, the more interested he becomes in knowing more about his heritage. The more demon guardians he faces, the more he is affirmed of his values. We've seen demons submit to the will of a stronger opponent after all. Strangely enough, Dante finds himself identifying with their desire to roam freely, be as chaotic as they please, and only be responsible for themselves. I also think that we can use something to accomplish this further, something that wasn't really utilized that much in the actual story. Temen-Negru. This isn't simply a gateway, it is a monument full of the collective knowledge of all demon kind. It is practically the Museum of Hell. It's why we see Arkham so excited while in the tower, both in the manga and the video game. So this would be a valuable resource for Arkham to continue to mold Dante. I also think this further accentuates the power dynamic these two have. Although Arkham acts with some authority as the scholar, he can't overstep his boundary against a son of Sparta. He has to ride a fine line between the two roles, unlike the canonical story where Vergil definitely held a significant amount of authority over Arkham. Meanwhile, Dante has to balance his deepening curiosity over his heritage and his suspicions of Arkham, lest he falls prey to his manipulation. After recovering from his loss, Vergil will feel the boost in strength coursing through his body, and I can see him wanting to test these new abilities. Canonical Dante sorta just randomly got swallowed by the Leviathan, but we can say Vergil sees it flying around and tries to kill it to test his new power. This will then bring us to Vergil and Lady's second meeting. I don't think it matters if Vergil got swallowed by Leviathan or not. What matters is that he brought the beast down on the terrace the lady happened to be on, and walked right past her. Vergil is considered an enemy to Lady because he is a demon. Therefore, she does not hesitate to confront him.
Wait!
If you're planning to ask me out, then I'm afraid shooting me earlier left much to be desired for.
Date a demon? I'm not that desperate. Besides, I really don't care for guys who stink like blood.
Standards. A welcomed improvement to the first impression you left. Demons start gathering around them, and the two immediately take action. Both form a reluctant tag team as they clear out the demons. This is the scene where Dante learns Lady has no name and tells him she doesn't care what he calls her. Thus, he decides to call her Lady. This will remain the same, but unlike Dante, Vergil remains to clear out the horde, against his better judgment. He just can't help but feel responsible for her.
Don't see any more of them.
Good. Thank you for your help. Now you can leave.
Excuse me?
Vergil continues walking. Lady doesn't appreciate being ignored, and unloads a full clip from her SMG. This is Devil May Cry, she got plenty of bullets to spare. However, Vergil reacts swiftly, and gracefully deflects each of the bullets with ease. Look, Lady, I understand that you excel at shooting things, but that doesn't change the fact that you are incredibly vulnerable as someone who is entirely human. Whatever business you have in this tower is not worth your life, I can assure you.
Don't you dare act like you care about me. Demons like you are more likely to care about which limb to break first, let alone my well-being.
Rather unfair depiction, considering we fought together.
I don't care what you do, but don't get in my way. Pretending to care about me only makes it even more annoying. So let me through.
Very well. But I still have unfinished business within this tower. It's best if we keep our paths separate from each other, to avoid any further provocation.
Fine by me.
The two awkwardly walk into the tower together, and then separate. As Vergil walks away, he thinks about how persistent Lady is, how incredibly talented and yet reckless. She is someone who thinks they are invincible, but with the skill to back that up, making her more difficult to look after. And to top it off, she too has an affinity for guns. She is quite possibly just as persistent as him. This was something that required some debate to figure out. Canonical Vergil killed Arkham because he, mistakenly, sensed some sentimentality within Arkham towards his daughter. thus losing interest in Arkham as a reliable partner for his plans. I think Vergil's sense of superiority in their dynamic made it easy for him to underestimate Arkham and feel no remorse in killing him. I think Dante would kill Arkham as well, but I see him approaching this differently. He doesn't have the exact same sense of superiority as Vergil. He's apathetic about others because he knows he's strong enough to do what he wants. He doesn't think he deserves to be on a pedestal above everyone. Thus, Arkham's frequent talks about Sparta and supremacy don't really stroke his ego like it would have with canonical Vergil. Therefore, I think Dante would actually catch on to Arkham's plan the more he pays attention to him. The more Dante entertains Arkham's passion, the more Dante recognizes Arkham's lust for power. He would make the connection that a man this passionate about gaining power wouldn't pass up the opportunity to become as powerful as Sparta. He may not look it, but Dante has proven to be very perceptive when it comes to dealing with people. Therefore, I think it's likely that Dante would anticipate Arkham's betrayal the more he is exposed to Arkham's ambition. Dante would feign respect for the man, and then cut him out right when he reaches the layer of judgment, similar to canonical Vergil. While Dante holds on to rebellion in Arkham's chest, he reveals his concern over Arkham's potential betrayal. He sarcastically claims that he is doing Arkham a favor by doing this. Demonic power is something you have to be born with to handle, and that a human like him simply wouldn't survive in this new world. Arkham rebuts that neither would Dante. Arkham unrelentingly emphasizes the moment of doubt Dante had about his ideology. He mentions that despite all that power, his inability to truly forsake his humanity makes Dante incapable of having the mindset of a demon. He had no direction in life before Arkham, and he will eventually be slaughtered without him. Dante yanks the rebellion out of Arkham and lets him fall to the ground. Arkham's words echo through his mind as he looms over the body. He's sure he made the right call, but his body remains tense with anger. Anger at the notion of becoming dependent on this man and being unable to survive on his own. With fists clenched tight and heavy footsteps, Dante makes his way to the layer of judgment, now motivated more than ever to see this plan through to the end, to prove himself, and to spite Arkham. Vergil will find Arkham's body on the floor, and he thinks of how different of a person his brother has become to end up killing his own ally. The same rambunctious little brother that always had a big toothy grin could do something like this. His thoughts are interrupted by Lady, who asks Vergil to step away from the body. Lady will vent to Vergil about her responsibility to kill Arkham. Vergil will have more tact in this scenario, and not antagonize her. Lady has always been aggressive towards Vergil, but he can sense that there's something deeper in Lady's outburst. And the words that she speaks resonate with Vergil, the same way that they resonated with canonical Dante.
This was all supposed to end by my hand!
You'd harm your family to prevent disaster?
Just go.
Family, huh? This moment serves to give Vergil a different perspective on his own family dilemma. This entire time he's been wanting to rescue his brother, but he never considered the possibility that there is no saving Dante from what he has become. The thought that Dante is out of Vergil's control doesn't sit right with him. It never has. But Lady's words and the several losses he's already endured make him, for the first time, consider the possibility. Unfortunately, Dante will not be able to complete the ritual since Arkham never told Dante the truth about what was necessary. He was already pretty fired up from Arkham belittling him, and his inability to undo the seal only adds on to the frustration. So when Vergil finally enters the room and tries to assert authority over his little brother, naturally, a third fight breaks out. This time, it's an incredible display of power between the two of them. Neither side is showing any sign of giving in, but the fight is interrupted by Lady, who was fed the same lie by Arkham from the canonical story. It's just that Dante is her target this time. With all of the necessary pieces aligned, Arkham will make his grand reveal as the mastermind who orchestrated all of this, and he will undo the seal, propelling him into the sky ahead of everyone else. The three scatter as the tower restructures itself, and eventually, Arkham enters the demon world. Vergil will catch up to Lady, who is patching herself up after the injuries she took. As per usual, Vergil will try to exert some sort of control over the situation. This doesn't sit well with Lady, who ends up giving a very emotional speech about why she can't let this go. The same exact speech from the canonical story. And, just like canonical Dante, Vergil will continue his protest, leading to a fight. Exhausted already? Where's your motivation? You certainly made it far. But I can take things from here.
No, you won't.
This again.
I told you to not get in my way.
You don't understand. As he is now, his power is beyond anything a human can handle.
No, you're the one who doesn't get it. It's not something that you can reason with. It has nothing to do with me being a human and you being a demon. I'm driven by an inability to forgive him. My soul is screaming, demanding me to kill him. Besides, this is my family matter. You should stay out of it.
Whether you believe me or not, I understand your sentiment. But I can't just sit and watch. He's made things quite personal. Now stand aside.
Fair enough. I wasn't planning on letting any demons live anyway.
Despite the injury, Lady puts up an impressive fight for a human. On several occasions, Vergil just can't help but marvel at how much of a walking arsenal she is. However, she can't keep up with Vergil's power, which leads to one of the most sentimental moments between two characters that usually leave little to no room for emotional vulnerability. I'll take care of him.
Why do you care?
Your father has done things that led to your family being ruined. And now you feel responsible for cleaning up his mess. You're burdened by the sins of your father. It's unfair to you. Meanwhile, by separating the human world and the demon world, my father angered powerful demons that took revenge on my family. And now I seek to stop my brother from undoing our father's work, and literally unleashing hell on earth. I wish I could just not give a damn, to not feel responsible. Hard to do when it's your little brother, let alone your father. And after meeting you, I understand that it must be done. It has to.
Wait.
Lady, I am not in the mood to get shot at again.
Use this.
No offense, but firearms are not really my style.
Neither is trusting a demon for me.
Fair enough.
It's called the Kalina Ann. What's your name?
Vergil. Vergil will find Arkham, who has absorbed the Force Edge's power by now, and will fight him. Vergil isn't very adept at using firearms, but he understands the basic idea of point and shoot. He doesn't need to use the Kalina Ann, and it's definitely something out of his comfort zone, but he feels compelled to make sure he gets a few shots in for Lady's sake. In doing so, he's caught off guard by how thrilling the explosions are. So this is what it feels like. Arkham will grow more deformed as the fight progresses, and Dante will join the fight as well, leading to that iconic scene where, for a moment, the Sons of Sparta fight as one, and Arkham is forced back into the human world. where Lady waits to complete her revenge on the man that forever damned her life.
No!
Giving chase to the Force Edge and their pendants, the Sons of Sparta make their way deeper into the demon world and reach a shallow waterfall. Although each grabbed their respective pendants on the way down, Dante reached the Force Edge first. He now holds the devil arm with his father's power, and can immediately feel it bond with his own. Oddly enough, this moment is the closest he's felt to his kinship. He thinks how foolish he was to have not valued the presence his father had on these realms. This power was truly the ultimate expression of freedom from the world's influence, and now it is his to command. In Dante's mind, he has overcome the burden of being a son of Sparta. All that remains is his brother, who stands defiantly against him. Although Vergil despises demons, even he can recognize that Sparta wanted to protect humanity, that despite their frailty, there was something worth protecting. He shouts how that was ultimately his will. Dante remains unconvinced by those words, as his body emanates a black and purplish aura. However, Vergil wasn't trying to sway him. Vergil has completely given up on saving his brother. The fight commences. There is a lightning-like speed to their attacks, followed by thunderous echoes of clashing metal, each impact sending reverberations across the battlefield. The fight is truly a spectacle to witness, but pales in comparison to when the two take on their devil trigger forms. Dante's form, in particular, faintly resembles Sparta, while still retaining some of his unique features. This only proves to motivate Vergil further to overcome his brother, and prove his father's will right. The two have one climactic clash, in which Vergil cuts through Dante's torso. His regenerative ability keeps Dante from dying, but he falters. Taking the opportunity, Vergil violently pulls the Force Edge out of Dante's grasp and tosses him towards the edge of the waterfall. Vergil has won. The Devil Trigger fades away to show a beaten and exhausted Dante, with his illusion of invincibility completely shattered. For the first time in a while, Dante experiences genuine fear for his life, as he sees not the demonic visage that bested him, but rather the human eyes of his brother, locked in an intense gaze with his. The gravity of everything he's done sets in as Vergil walks towards him, with both blades in hand. Arkham's haunting words creep into his head again. Forsake humanity, or be slaughtered. He looks down and sees his shivering hand clutching his pendant tightly. He looks back up at his brother's murderous eyes, unwavering in their conviction. Dante stumbles onto his feet and tells Vergil that he's more of a demon than he originally thought. Vergil freezes in place at the sound of the melancholic voice coming from his brother. But before he could react further, Dante, left with no other recourse, willingly jumps off the edge of the waterfall. Vergil rushes to the edge in shock and sees the image of his brother disappear into the distance below. With the pendants separated once more, the gateway between the worlds begins to close, and Vergil rushes to escape back into the human world. There's very little time to process what just occurred, but as Vergil flees, he is filled with a pervasive sense of sorrow. Eventually, he escapes, and is reunited with Lady at the front of the tower, where he returns Kalina Ann. Things should settle down for a moment, but they will return.
Are you crying?
Vergil's back is perfectly aligned, and his head is held high. He stares ahead of him unblinkingly, as the tears roll off his face, doing nothing to stop them, nor hide them from her. Devils never cry.
I see. Maybe somewhere out there, even a devil may cry when he loses a loved one. don't you think?
Maybe.
So,
Lady takes her handgun and shoots demons that are trying to jump the both of them.
what are you going to do now?
Vergil and Lady position themselves back to back, as demons slowly surround the both of them. Officially name my shop, and hunt demons for money until the day I die.
Really? I didn't think you enjoyed doing this kind of work.
Are you kidding? I'm absolutely crazy about it. Let's end this video talking about what our cast will do after this adventure. Dante survives his fall from the waterfall, and has time to contemplate his place in this new world. The rebellion has always been his only source of security, and this proves to be even more true as he traverses the demon world, eventually finding his way to Mundus, where he attempts to exact his revenge anyway. If he can't beat him, he'll die doing what he wanted. A more desirable outcome than wandering aimlessly for the rest of his life. Mundus, however, has no intention of letting Dante rest in peace. Based on what I've seen from the Devil May Cry anime, it seems like Lady, despite keeping in contact with Dante, does not enjoy how canonical Dante runs his business, which is why I believe she works alone most of the time. However, Vergil's business is incredibly efficient and profitable. Therefore, I think Lady would actually want to partner up with Vergil. Vergil, despite being a massive control freak, has come to view Lady more like a sister, especially considering the similarities between her and Dante. Thus, he would agree to have her join as a business partner, and with time, she will definitely become his newly found family. However, this doesn't mean their arrangement will be perfect. Their differences in personality and the trauma that they endured will eventually cause some form of conflict. Conflict that we'll explore next time. That concludes the Vergil's Awakening arc of our story. I hope you've enjoyed this elaborately presented fanfiction. I intended for this to be a small project, something casual, but then I saw the opportunity to make something truly unique from the rest of my content, and I severely underestimated how much time this would take. I'm not going to leave this unfinished. I want to go through the whole Devil May Cry canon with our what if story. I hope that my experience with this project will make me better prepared for the next saga. Be on the lookout for a casual video within the next couple of days. There are some things that I want to talk with you about involving the channel, and some questions I want to answer that I can't fit in the end of this video. So instead, it'll be its own thing. And as always, my people, thank you for watching.